Okay, shall I say something as introduction, just so it doesn't float in the ether for a little while? Welcome everybody this afternoon to this special workshop that's being led by Caroline Castle and Vicky Turpin from Southdown. Just as an update really on social prescribing. So without too much further ado, I think I'll just hand over to Vicky and Caroline. Thank you.
Hi, hi everybody. Great to see you. And so I'll talk a bit first of all, and then Vicky will be taking on some more of the slides a bit later. So yeah, welcome, and we'll get started.
Brilliant.
So, Community Connectors is the social prescribing team that works in partnership with the GPs in Hastings, Rother, Eastbourne, Seaford and Howsham area. And we support people to access services and activities that improve their health and well-being. So our community navigators explore and identify what's important to the person's health and well-being and the issues that they want to address, and identify and connect them to the activities and services and groups that they could benefit from. So the whole idea, I think, of social prescribing is that medication is not the only solution to supporting your well-being, and social prescribing can help to support you to access different things that will support alongside your medication if you need to have medication, or as an alternative to. So they support and provide encouragement to start using the services that can help them. So the identified areas that we support with, they're quite varied. So it's healthy lifestyles and active lives, arts, music, outdoors and creativity, befriending, counselling and other support groups, housing, benefits and financial support and advice, and employment training and volunteering. Education, getting involved in the local groups and your communities. There are plenty of people out there that are providing brilliant things, even during this sort of period, and it's just about accessing them. So who's eligible for the service? So basically we work with people 16 plus, so there's no upper age limit. With anybody that's experiencing any issues that are affecting their mental health and well-being. So referrals, so GPs have referral forms on their systems within the surgeries, and you can also email us on our contact details there. So we can provide you, professionals and GPs referring, and we also do self-referrals. So that's just an example really of how simple our referrals form is, and how easy it is to access. So at the moment, we're currently providing majority of our support working remotely and providing telephone and video support to clients. Our buddy volunteers are providing phone support to clients as well. So that's a little bit of an extra addition. So normally the buddies would be supporting outside, helping people access things, but they've converted to telephone support as well. So they've been supporting all clients. And we actually started to offer very essential face-to-face support during late September. And we still do have that in place. And it's assessed on a individual basis. So our referral pathway, so following a referral into our gateway, so patient will be contacted within 7 days to complete an initial assessment to see what they would like to have support with. The patient will then be allocated to a community navigator, and it is dependent on the community navigator because they each cover different areas. So the community navigator will then contact the patient to arrange and book in the client's appointments. And we also record on the GP database when we're in the surgeries, which obviously ensures that the GPs are up to date with what we're working with the patients. And it's really easy access, and we can converse with the GPs very easily via this. So I won't go through all of them. You can all see them in front of you, but these are the GP practices that we are normally in at the moment. We're not within them because they're keeping flow very limited during this period. But they're all the ones that we have a presence in. And we also have a presence in some community venues as well. And we're always looking at new venues as possibilities arise as well. But obviously all of these at the moment are quite limited. So intervention-wise, clients are met regularly with the community navigator. So we do a maximum of 8 sessions, about 45 minutes to an hour. And the navigator will identify the goals, strengths and skills during the appointments to create a really personalised support plan. And it's important to note, I think, it's the community navigators are specifically trained in coaching and use of motivational interviewing techniques. So this supports the client sort of identifying the ways forward, as well as signposting and doing the onward referrals that the clients may need, covering the underlying social factors, finance, employment, housing, physical health, mental health and well-being. So the way we identify support for our clients is we use 2 tools. One of them is the PAM. So that's a patient activation measure, and it's about finding out about possessing the knowledge and skills and confidence to actively engage in anything and change behaviours to achieve better outcomes. So if the patient's activation is low, then we will be offering them up to 8 sessions, because that would involve a lot more coaching and a lot more planning at the initial stages to support the client to achieve their goals. Whereas as their activation goes up, there's less intervention needed. So they would need less sessions, although it is discussed on a one-to-one level. So the sessions are set, but there is some flexibility as and when needed for the clients around that. So it's basically an evidence-based questionnaire designed to measure the level of activation, and it's 13 questions that we ask clients, and their answers dictates around the activation, around their physical health and well-being. So the other tool we use is the MyCore, and that's the measure your self-concerns and well-being. This is more identified for the client and how they can really look at it and see what they want to focus on. So we focus on 2 main concerns that they want to focus on, and we identify their care plan and goals set around the 2 concerns. So they would identify these, and then they are scored. So they're scored on a 0 to 6 basis at the beginning of support, and again at the end of support, to identify how far they've come in that period, and to really show them and empower them around the progress that they've made. So I'm going to pass over to Vicky to cover the case study that we've put in here for you, just so you can see a little bit more detail of some of the work that we'll be doing. And yeah, go for there. Okay, Vicky, thank you.
Hi, hello everyone. Now, do excuse I've got a little dog in the background who's just so passionate about social prescribing that every so often she just has a little bark to just back my point. So we might have a little background noise of that. So I hope it doesn't set anyone else's dogs off. So brilliant, thanks Caroline. So yeah, our case study I think is a really lovely way to show how we use like a range of tools and also sort of just like a real world example of what happens and the process we go through and you know what sort of people we get coming through our door. So we've got Julie here, and I think Julie is someone that we've probably all seen and someone who's really suffering because of COVID, because of her age. So she's 72, which means that she's been isolated for a long time, and you know it just gets worse with COVID. So our work has, as Caroline has said, has been disrupted by COVID and phone, and we're doing a lot of phone support, but it also has meant that there's sort of less things to refer to, which is something that's a little bit tricky, but we found other ways around that, and you'll sort of see what stuff we've been able to get through for her. So yeah, she's 72. She is very tearful, she's anxious, she's depressed, she's been really affected by the lockdown, as I'm sure we know lots of people have been, especially those who've had to shield and isolate. She's put a lot of weight on, which was adding to her depression. Again, this does seem to be a side effect of you know, being at home. A lot of people find they put a bit of weight on. You're stuck at home, so you've lost motivation, you're feeling isolated, and then she's having some anxiety around wearing a mask, as it increases her feeling of anxiety. And she's also needs a bit of support with her pain management around arthritis. So she's coming to us, you know, someone that probably quite typically would come through our door, especially during times of COVID, feeling isolated. So what happened? She came in, she talked to our lovely navigator who got some, you know, background from what we've seen and did our outcomes, so our outcome measures. So with a MyCore, which again stands for My Concerns and Wellbeing. So for her first concern she wanted to focus on was her health and well-being. So things like she was talking about her pain management, her anxiety, that sort of stuff. So that's really affecting her. 6 is the highest. So that's really, really bothering her in her life. The next one was social networks. So she wanted to build a bit more of a connection. She's feeling really isolated. That's 4. So still, you know, something we've been concerned about, and it's really affecting her. So she started at PAM level 2, which means that she had some confidence in how she could help her own health. She had some confidence in knowing what it was about, what it was called, what's out there. But something that would be really helpful for us to build on with her, and brilliant to see that by the end of it, she's on PAM level 3, which means she's much more confident. You can give her information and she can go away and do it herself, which is what we really hope for everyone, that self-management. She loves it. She loves this. So what we offered was, and again, this is really good to show that our service is, and as we all know about social prescribing, you know, there's a large element of signposting to it and connecting to people in the community, but it's also about that motivational support and coaching. So what we do is we bring people in and we talk with them, get to know them and say, go and try this. And if you don't like it, then come back and we'll try something else. We want to make a sustainable change for people. So it's not just a signposting service, we're really working with them to try and build up their skills. So, I mean, we're probably all guilty of this. Julie did not acknowledge her achievements. So she was saying, you know, she didn't, excuse me, she wasn't, didn't recognise her own value. She didn't recognise her own worth. So what was reflected back to her was, you know, you've set up a friendship group, you're an active member of your church, you're part of the chaplaincy service at Beach Head. I mean, that's difficult enough as it is. So we really like to show people what they've already achieved, what they're good at, building their confidence. We put a support plan in place for her. So she had 8 sessions. That's roughly about 2 months, depending on how it goes. And we looked at what there was out there while she was still isolated that she could look at. So online apps and phone sessions and things like that. She was referred to 1U to help with her weight gain. 1U is still doing online support. and they're still doing their, smoking, no smoking, reducing alcohol, and helping with weight management. And then talked about other sort of goals that aren't so formally signposting to get in place. So gradually inviting members of a friendship group round, feeling confident with what the restrictions are, what she could do. And again, something that's not quite signposting, but getting older, discussing what the benefits are, discussing what the positive sides might be of it, and giving that sort of mentoring, coaching feeling to it as well. So she was giving all the information, and we also got some lovely packs that were dealing with worldwide pandemic. I don't know how you put that in a pack, but it was sort of anxiety pack with things that you could work through, and advice and information about what is causing your anxiety. Another really important part was that we got her to go back to her GP. So if people do have health problems, we make sure that they know who they can go to, and to get an exemption for her mask. So what happened to Julie? Julie did really well. So she lost 7 pounds. So this is fast forward maybe 1 or 2 months, because we always get the outcomes at the end of our work with people. So she lost 7 pounds, brilliant. So she was really engaged in that. She increased her volunteering. So not only did she carry on, she felt the resilience to increase her volunteering. She's been getting back in contact with her friends. She's been studying all the mental health information and has done the Silverline program, which is sort of mental health online courses. So something that's really lovely to see out of working with people is when they engage in stuff. And I think that's the difference. That's what really is really good about our service, is that it's not just here you go and see that. It's how are you going to engage with this? This is something that would really help you. How are we going to get you to engage with it? So brilliant. She managed to engage with loads of lovely things. And she has also organised some walking groups as well, which is great. Gosh, she's done loads. She's also joined Just Friends, which is a really lovely service in Hailsham and Eastbourne that meet up and they do some online stuff. She's enrolled in the courses online, and she was just really grateful to her Navigators. So she said she's been an inspiration, really lovely to have someone who I can actually chat to and understand what I was going through. And again, I think when we talk to GPs, that's what we say to them. You have 10 minutes to talk to them. We know you'd like to talk to them more, perhaps not everyone more, but we'd like to be able to talk to them more. And so we just have that time that they can come and they can chat with us and tell us what's going on, up to 45 minutes, half an hour at the moment because of phone support, and just really get just really have that, just chat, get to know someone, and talk about those social issues that are so important for both mental and physical health. So the outcomes that we took from that, and that we take in general, the things that we're really looking for is reduction in GP appointments. So the idea is with social prescribing, often people go because there's social problems as well as medical, as well as mental, and all those things are mixed together. Often what happens is the GP can't solve social problems. So they're still having problems with their housing, they're still having problems with something else. So they go back at time and time again. And what we can do is take some of that burden off them and say, okay, well, let's sort out some of those social stuff you don't have time for. Let's look at what other mental health routes there are. Let's look at something other than medication. And then slowly what happens, what we've seen tends to happen, is they go to their GP less and less once those things get sorted. And it just shows how integrated your physical health, your mental health, your social health, all those things are together, and how much effect they have on each other. So we're looking for improved mental and physical health, improved confidence, self-esteem, self-management is so important. And those things are the things that the PAM test as well, how confident we feel we can make change in our own lives, and include social inclusion, which is obviously a massive one at the moment in local community. That was a cheeky one at the end. And also obviously increased well-being, that's sort of one of our top things to do. So we get an impact report each year. We also get them monthly, so I have got a more up-to-date one as well, actually, that I found recently. But this one is last year's, and it just shows, so we look at the GP reduction, so 72%. So how we do it is we measure them before, how many appointments people were attending before and after. and we found a 72% reduction in that. This year, from April to September, there was, now it's changed the format. It's very interesting. I can't find it. Maybe we'll come back to that one. So 84, there she is again. 84% of patients report an improvement in specific concerns. So there are those MyCores. So then that's when we see a shift from, perhaps at the beginning they say it's a 6. Hopefully by the end it's gone down to, to 1. Yeah, we're miracle workers. It always goes down to 1. No, hopefully it goes down at least a couple, just to show how taking some of that pressure off really helps to improve our mental health. So 72% have said an overall improvement in their well-being. We've had an increase in referrals, which has been great. And it's been a difficult thing during COVID. There's been slumps, peaks and troughs, I'm sure, as you all found. But it's good to know that people are coming back to us because they know that we can still offer phone support, which is really, really handy. And so we refer out a lot. So an element is signposting. So it's great to have these sort of meetings so you can catch up with what people are doing. So we referred out over 1,000 times to other people and other services in the area. So really trying to connect people into their community. So we also have a buddy scheme that Caroline touched upon. Normally our buddy scheme operates so that if someone is feeling sort of really anxious, maybe they don't want to go to the dentist or their GP, or even a group, social group, then they can go and be matched with a buddy, and then the buddy can take them there. So we've had some really, really lovely improvements. So a gentleman who was so socially anxious, he could barely talk in his sessions. He got matched with a buddy. He couldn't speak with anyone else. He didn't do anything. He was a carer for his mom. And eventually by the end of it, he was doing whittling. He was doing a whittling course. He was considering if he could do furniture restoration for his job, and he was teaching other members of the class how to do it. And so that support from the buddy to get in there, to have someone on your side, is just so important. And they've all got their own mental health backgrounds. They will understand what's happening and you can really talk to them. So she's called an outreach coordinator. And she trains all our buddies, she recruits them, and she also gets support provided for the Sussex Recovery College. So she's so our buddies also support people wanting to attend the courses there, and I don't know if you know about them, but they're all the sort of mental health courses, and learning about resilience, learning about different sort of wellbeing improvements. So sometimes people are suffering from mental health themselves, so we get those buddies to go in with them, and it just gives that extra support for people to be able to access education for themselves. So they work very closely with the community navigator as well, and they're seeing them at the same time so that they can just make sure the goals are still fitting. It's very goal orientated, so the buddies will work on specific goals of clients. It's not a befriending service. It's very much, what do you want to achieve? This is how we're going to help you achieve it, depending on what that is. So some things that the buddies have been supporting our clients with: iPad use, creative writing, physical activity. So maybe they both go for a walk at the same time and come back and have a chat about it. Yoga, self-care and pampering, lots of lovely things that I think it's, if you feel, you've got to tell someone at the end of the week what you did, it's much more motivation to do it. So yeah, they're so we also encourage all of our clients, if they want to become a buddy as well, and then they can also go on some sort of peer support courses and learn those skills too. So this is just some feedback which has been lovely to have from our clients. So they felt very supported, knew they were listening, and directed to services that they found very useful. Made such a difference. Since my very first meeting, I was lost, but now I'm fighting back to wellness. I won't give up, so thank you. A GP has said the community navigators give patients time that GPs are unable to provide, signposting patients to appropriate additional support using good knowledge of what is available. So some really lovely feedback we've got there. And then, lovely. And then a buddy volunteer also saying how much it's been helping them as well. We often hear that too, which is really nice. So normally outside of COVID, we have some lovely things that really help our community. So we have Connect Well Hub, which is at Marlborough House, which is on Warrior Square, the GP surgery, the level above that. And it's just a brilliant social prescribing hub. So we have lots of different services working there. So there's Break Even, One You are there, Arts on Prescription, and there's just lots of space for these brilliant services to come in and have clients there using all their skills and their groups and their clinics to run from there. So it's a brilliant social prescribing hub that we run. We also have a physical health lead, which is actually myself. And this year, because of COVID, the checks that I'm running and working with GPs are on pause at the moment. So I've been working very hard on other things, but normally it's a great, it's a physical health check for people with severe mental illness, and it's just trying to get them to get more support with their physical health, really. So once that's back up and running, I'll be back out there telling you about it and getting you to get all your clients to come to my clinics. But until then, we are still open for referrals. So if you would like to get in contact with us, here's the number. If you've got any referrals, you can find them. Caroline pointed them out earlier when we'll send them around the slides. But all our referral forms are on our website. It's southdown.org Community Connectors. There's one that's called the GP professional form and one that's called self-referral, but any professional can use the GP professional one. It's just because normally that's where we're based, but any of you can use it. So please do, if you've got anyone that you want to refer, use that and send it to the email address. And because it's nhs.net, it's very secure. We're also on social media, so check us out, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, etc. Yeah. And so that's our website. So that's all from us. Are there any questions for either me or Caroline? And thanks for listening, and thanks for listening to my dog Coco.
I have. Yeah. Can I ask a question?
Jackie.
So just going really just sort of taking it right back. When you have somebody who's been referred in either by a GP or self-referral to the community connectors, where do the community connectors, where do they get the information as to what groups are running? How do they know what groups are running? Because I know I've heard from groups that people haven't contacted. There's lots of groups that I know that haven't been contacted by anybody, so they don't know that they know that they exist. So how do you find out where to, particularly with the light touch stuff? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So all our navigators are constantly researching, and we are reaching out to various members. And I've been particularly during this period reaching out to different smaller services, voluntary organisations, to get them to be able to signpost them to clients, etc. So. And it's all through the networking opportunities as well. So yeah, it's a joint effort with the social prescribing in the community, and it's not a one size fits all.
Can I ask you a question off the back of that, Caroline? Because I've been approached in the last couple of weeks by organisations similarly, probably to Jackie, asking about funding. So some of the smaller ones, particularly around arts, or people accessing gyms and things like that. Is there funding available for the smaller organisations to provide a service that you can refer them into? And if there is, how do they access it?
Okay, so us as a service wouldn't deal with funding. So if you're talking about the organisations, there have been various funding bids come out around the social prescribing area, and Carla, who is the project lead on social prescribing, has been meeting with various people around that and trying to build those relationships a bit more for all of the social prescribing services within the area to be working around that dynamic and getting the funding for that integration. I can't really give you any more information around that sort of funding for the smaller organisations, apart from signpost you to Carla Hawkins, who is the project lead for social prescribing East Sussex.
And the Navigators are also on we get sent lots of email chains that are out. So what I would suggest is often funding opportunities aren't sort of always consistently come out, but the best thing to do is be on those email chains so that when funding does come out, it's advertised. So it's advertised through the council, it's advertised through public health, it's advertised through sometimes HVA, RVA. So it's being also linked into those because they often come through that as channel. I think also another way that we, as Caroline says, we try to get around as many of these sort of meetings and groups as possible to hear updates and hear about services, but we're always welcome people coming to speak to us. So we have a team meeting once a month. If anyone wants to come and guest speak, they can come and tell us all about their service. You can email us and get in touch, after this. Often we have people emailing, and so we've had a few one-to-one Zooms where they can tell us what's going on and then we tell the team. So there's lots of opportunities to tell us what's going on as well. We're always happy to hear about them. It's so difficult to get in touch with all the groups. We would love to, that's ideal, but we are proactively into the community trying to find what's going on and link into things. But if you have any other ideas, like we use SKISS as well, we look into that. There's the mental health directory with the Sarah Candler does from the commissioners. Any other ideas, we're open.
Yes, thank you, Vicky. I think that obviously we're RVA, we represent the voluntary sector across Rother, and it's ensuring that they've got the money to deliver the service, not just referrals. So it's a really important part of it. I think it's a great service. It's been a real pleasure to hear the work you're doing this afternoon. Obviously, it's making sure that these groups can actually deliver it without losing money.
Oh yeah, definitely. And that's what we rely on. It's so important. And so I actually would carry on from what Caroline said and definitely get in touch with Carla, because she doesn't hold the purse strings, but she definitely has influence about what's happening, and her feeding back into local government and commissioning groups saying how important these services are. You can't have social prescribing without them, is a real a part of her role. So I would get in contact with her.
And we just to add on to that, we have had various people contacting us around supporting letters for funding, which we do as a social prescribing service as well. So
Right.
Sorry, Jackie, if we try.
No. I was just wondering whether the so with the actual community connectors, for instance, the ones, am I right in thinking that they occasionally sit actually in GP surgeries in the different PCNs?
Yes.
Now, is there a list anywhere of who the actual community connectors are? Are we able to contact them directly if we know of groups that they might not know about?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we can send out the information. I could send it to Claire directly, or would that be all right, Claire? You can. Yeah,
that's great, and I'll disseminate it. Lovely, thank you, Caroline.
Yeah. I was the other things I was just going to ask you was around how, on average, how many people do you normally do you think you help in the rural PCNs? But that's probably not something you have at your fingertips.
I wouldn't be able to tell you off the top of my head. I may be able to tell you in a couple of weeks' time, because we've got our reporting at the moment going through. So we can sort of identify in the different areas how many we're supporting, and
that'd be,
actually this
it'd just be interesting to see how much is
as well.
Yeah. We can't hear you, Claire. Claire, you're on mute.
Sorry, so annoying. Sorry, Chrissy, have you got any questions, or anybody else from RVA?
No, I don't think so. It's really interesting. I'm with Hastings and Rother Rainbow Alliance, which is probably got about 500 members across the area, LGBTQIA+ people. So it's just really useful to know what's out there for people, because things are changing all the time. And although most people I know are getting support through our group or socialising with each other online or one-to-one walks and that, but it's really helpful to just know what's there.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that your members are aware of the social prescribing platform?
I imagine most of them aren't, and we have a fortnightly email letter that goes out, which is a what's on, so everything. Well, at the moment, it's all things you can watch on Netflix and everything. So if there's any paragraph or a link that you've already have prepared that I could use for that, that would be really helpful. Because I'm sure you've already phrased it far better than I'd be able to. So.
Yeah, we'd be happy to send one across. Yeah, no problem.
Chrissy, stick your email address in the chat and then they can send it to you directly. Has anybody else got any questions for Caroline or Vicky? I've got one. I just wanted to ask about the Warrior Square Connect Well Hub. Is that also for Rother residents as well, or is it just for Hastings and St Leonard's?
People in the Rother area, if they're able to access it, can access it, yes.
Okay, all right, lovely, thank you. And final question around, so the yoga and gym recommendations, when they come up around health, obviously if people aren't working, then there's a cost implication to that. Are you able to refer people into those services so they have fee waivers and membership fee reductions?
So we do, there is the process of the gyms. It was originally called the Gyms on Prescription, so it's 2020 Health. They do a reduced fee, a very much reduced fee around things, and obviously One New with their weight management have the free sessions at the beginning. And there is the possibility of getting funding, so we can look at funding and grants for people around accessing things like that as well, individually.
So there's individual grants available for that and you apply for it on their behalf.
So we follow the Turn to Us. One of the sites we use is Turn to Us. So there's a lot of services on there that we would, but we also use various other bodies as well that will support with funding. Yeah.
Okay, lovely. Thank you, Caroline. Anybody else?
One very, very quick question. Your Arts on Prescription, is that anything to do with social prescribing? It is?
Yes. Yeah.
Because I think that if you've been prescribed into it, then you don't pay, I believe. But if you aren't, then you pay £8 for a session.
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
And so is that funded through Arts on Prescription? Have got their own funding for that, have they?
So Arts and Prescription have got their own funding. We help support that bit as well, because we have been working with them for quite a while. So any referrals coming through from the GPs and from ourselves, it will be free of charge. Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you.
That's great. And I guess one final question about inclusivity. So obviously you're going to have lots of different types of clients coming through the door. They might have a learning disability or autism. They might be from the BAME community, or English might not be their first language or anything like that. Are there any barriers to accessing any of the services, or is that part of the assessment?
Vicky, would you like to take this one, or are you happy for me to?
Well, yeah. So, sorry, was the last bit of your question? Are there any barriers to getting them to go to services or to come to our service?
Just accessing the services, I guess. Are there any barriers?
No, we have access to free interpreters, so we can use them. And we have autism champions within our team, so we have a lot of support throughout our team for all of this sort of inclusivity. And then in terms of getting them to other services, yeah, we have various options, like some of our buddies will be able to help people if they're finding something difficult, and we're all sort of well trained in how to support people and sort of encourage them to get to these services and look at what their barriers are and break them down, which is quite nice, why we have that time to do that with them. And we can also support them and to an extent advocate on their behalf for services if they want to get into them as well. Do you have anything to add, Caroline, to that?
No, and I mean, Translators, it's a blessing to obviously have people, and we are also able to get hold of people that will help with deaf and blind interpretation as well. Sorry, I'm using the wrong language here, but so yeah, we have interpreters all along that. So and we have really good links with the Link project, so around sort of refugee or you know, that sort of aspect as well. We'll work with links around that as well.
That's lovely. So unless anybody's got any further questions, I think that's been a really helpful talk to us this afternoon. And thank you for letting us record it. We will be sharing it on our website. And I think it's a really useful way for people to have a bit more information about what you're doing. And if you've got any further information you want to share with us, we'll happily share it through our e-bulletins and social media. So please feel free to.
Brilliant, Claire, thank you. I'll get the list of the navigators and everything and the surgeries and stuff that we're in. Okay.
Brilliant. Thanks, everybody.
Brilliant.
Right, thanks for having us. Nice to see you all.
Betty, could you stop recording? I just wanted a quick chat with Chrissy. Is that all right?
Oh yeah, sure.